I'm John Beaudin. This is part three, I think, of our fourth interview with Graeham Goble of the Little River Band. And an interesting part in this one is the fact that most of his love songs are based on one girl. One girl he's never been with. One young lady that he met when he was quite young. But he used that theme for a lot of the hits, as you'll find out in this clip on Rock History Music. Reminiscing, you were talking about the going back in time and the building blocks. Speaking of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but the building blocks that led to this, that led to that. Every time, reminiscing made me look back. I know you're very proud of that song, biggest hit in the United States. John Lennon liked it, but was that where you were when you put that together? Where you're in a melancholy mood? What was the impetus to that?
No. Okay. So I've talked about this a lot, particularly recently, but I'll try and just say it in a different way. I started writing songs when I was about 13, was about my first song, and I lived a very insular life. I basically lived in my bedroom writing songs. If I wasn't at work, I used to work for the government as a clerical position, but I would, like, for instance, come home on a Friday night, get into my pajamas and spend the whole weekend in my room writing songs, and that's what I did all the time. And then out of that, when I got a lot of songs, I started forming bands and to play my own music, etc., etc. But I was very, very insular. I had a lot of anxiety issues when I was young, and so I didn't participate really in a teenage life. But where it was all happening for me was internally, because the fantasy life of the television, like, we got TV when I was 12. So I started to see Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers. I started to see the movies of the Jeanette MacDonald, Nelson Eddy, the musicals of Rodgers and Hammerstein, and so that drew me in big time. And so in those early years, that's the music I was listening to, was that, and that was the life that I wanted to have. It was the fantasy life of having your girl, going to the prom. We didn't have the prom in Australia, but going to that, walking her home with the picket fence and the street lights. And I thought to myself, one day that's what I want to have, this perfect fantasy life, because I had not experienced any relationship at all in the real world, in the outside world. So then when I was 16, and I met this wonderful girl at work, and she became my this person that I felt that I would marry, and it just, I was very shy. It just never ever went forward. But I remained that she eventually, she became the muse for a lot of my writing for probably maybe in the next 30 years. And she, even though I eventually got married and had 4 children, she was always there in my life. And that's where the inspiration, I could draw upon that feeling of not achieving what I wanted, but I could draw upon that for writing all sorts of songs. So when it came to Reminiscing, and many other songs, but and there were other inspirations as well, but it was mainly her. She planted that emotion in me that I could draw upon, of how it feels to want something that you can never have, or that you're unable to achieve, to get in your life. So we were doing a TV show one day, in, I think it was 1977, I think, in Australia, and we were in the green room, and I was, and our guitarist David Briggs, we were just playing guitar, and he showed me a C9 chord. It was a shape that I had not learned before. or known, because I'm not a trained musician, John. I've learned by watching other great players like David and different people playing in the band, and if they play something, I say, "Oh, could you show me that?" Interestingly, he also showed Beeb the chords for Happy Anniversary, because that was sort of like a jazz shape that Beeb didn't know. So Beeb wrote or co-wrote Happy Anniversary because he saw a guitar shape and just started strumming on it. So with Reminiscing, I had the C9 chord. So then when I went home from the TV show, sat down in my room, picked up my guitar and just doodling a bit with this chord, and immediately the whole melody lyric of Reminiscing just poured into me. And in under a half an hour, I reckon 20, 25 minutes, I just was almost like downloading this song, because I started with that chord, but then as I'm hearing it, I'm like Friday night, it was like I was dreaming of the night. I'd just slide my hand down until what chord is this? Find the chord. How to tell you, I want to build. And then just that sort of thing. I was just hearing the lyrics, in the melody, and finding the shapes on my guitar. So melody was attached to a lyric, and then a half an hour I've got it all done. And then I basically had to learn it because I couldn't play it. I thought, well, okay, what are these chords? I didn't even know what they were. But subsequently, people who are trained musicians, and particularly the jazz people, think it's really a clever piece because it's got an introduction, and then there's interesting key change in it, and then it goes back to the original key, and so it's an unusual song. So the emotion or the feeling that just I lived with all my life, of not getting the what I wanted in a romantic and intimate life, that is still there, I might say, at my age, but I don't give up hope. I keep it sitting there, but I can go right back to when I was 15, 16 and how she made me feel. And so that was how it came to be.
But how do you feel being in the world now?
The world is a struggling entity, and it reflects the people living in it. The only thing wrong with the world at the moment are the people living here. We've got enormously, like, there's some wonderful things going on, and there's an army of people really working to fix a lot of the pollution problems and a lot of the issues that we've got. But we will never really evolve as a planet until we start accepting the differences. The differences that we all have is what makes humanity great. And yet, as soon as it's just this non-acceptance of another person's skin color, their religion, the way they live, what they do, this is the problem. And so I think that, and apart from, the corporate greed and all the rest of the unfair things with banks and the whole monetary system and how unfair all that is, but it's just, we all know that the problems of the world with the starvation that's there, it could all be fixed. If we can find unbelievable billions of dollars to build bombs and all the war machinery, yet we can't put our shoulder to the wheel to do something about poverty, to homelessness, for instance. So why we can't support people that can't afford a home, why we can't put food into people's mouths that don't have it. It's just crazy.
Like the basic things, Maslow's triangle, the basic things of life that you need, it seems they can't,
Yeah, and it's the easiest thing to do, and yet we can't find the will the people that are pulling the strings don't have the will to do it. I've had a little insight into this, in that with with my pet thing is, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but in Australia, like, the arts do not rate a mention. It's never ever mentioned, and yet everybody wants. Is it the same in Canada?
It's not good.
No. So everybody here wants to be able to go to a film. They want to go to, say, see a concert or a show or theatre. Yet it is becoming harder and harder and harder. And virtually the last time a decent Australian film was funded, or a theatrical show, I can't even remember. We've become a dumping ground for the American culture. Like, everything that comes out in America.
There's no funding for Australian films in Australia.
Very
no,
little.
We have that. We have that.
Well, the point is, what I've been trying for years and years and years, and to try and get a funding start for my musical, and so nothing coming from government, nothing at all. And we've got a show that can bring people to Australia, that could, and the tax dollars would get paid in Australia, but the government are just not interested. Okay, not been able to do that. But more to the point, we've approached very, very wealthy people, a lot of them, and they're just not interested in supporting the arts and putting something amazing into the world. People that are very, very wealthy just seem to want to become more wealthy, or they're saying, well, I need a 20% return on my money. And I've got hundreds of millions, but if I'm going to put $1 million into a show, that's risky business. I need to get 20% back, and quickly. And my feeling is, why?
Yeah.
What would you ever do with that money? You'll never spend what you've got. And it's not just a one-off thing. It's a continuous thing, in that the theatre promoters in Australia have got they bring in Hamilton. Okay, they might want 20 million to put on Hamilton in Australia. And so they just ring their circle of investors. They just, or their accountants, and say, look, you put this much in, this is how much you get back. Fine, I'm investing in Hamilton, or I'm investing in Harry Potter or something. Then they go and book the theatres out in Australia for years on end, so as no one else can get in. And then I turn up and say, look, I've got this wonderful show, and I need to build sets. I've got to, have it designed. We've got to do all this stuff, and we need this much money. But then what's the guaranteed return on it? And the response to that is, well, I don't know, because we don't. It's not Hamilton. It's not Harry Potter. It's a new show, and for the
LRB and Cachet in Australia. I mean, you guys are one of the biggest bands of all time.
Yeah, well, the show has got international legs.
Yeah, of course.
And so this is why I've always felt, I've not been talking about my show until recently, because I think there's got to be an angel investor who loves Little River Band music, that has experienced what our music means to them in their life. And they might be sitting there thinking, look, I'm sitting on this pot of gold over here. I love this music. I'm in a position to make it happen. And I know for a fact that most of the shows that get onto Broadway have got angel investors behind them, people that want to be there opening night, that believe in a show or something like that. And so that's why I'm being more public now, to say, we have got an incredible show. Do you want to be part of it, or do you just want to keep your money and go and buy a chicken farm or something? I mean,
there's 2 brand new compilations. You saw them as he was talking during the interview clips, available from the Little River Band, all remastered, including some rarities. There'll be links in the description where you can pick them up, and links to Graeham Goble's official site as well. Join our Patreon, get early access to all the videos in this series and every other series as well. Make sure you comment on our videos, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos on social media. Would appreciate that. I'm John Beaudin, more from Graeham Goble in the next few days. This is Rock History Music.